Hello everybody, welcome back to my Purpose of Life discussion series, and I'm really humble and happy with all the attention and all the feedback or comments that I've gotten over this series. Really makes it feels like this series is worth continuing and worth digging deeper to share more of my personal experiences with what I discovered to be the purpose of life. And now remember, these are all my own personal realizations and my own personal experiences. None of these conclusions and answers that I give are from any books. Basically any questions that you ask me, I dig deep into myself and find the answers from my own realizations and experiences. Okay, so one of you asked a really interesting question, which is a really good question. Now, before you continue watching this video, you must have watched part 1 and part 2 of my Purpose of Life video. If you don't, number one, whatever I'm gonna say is gonna sound ridiculous, it's gonna sound objectionable, you're just never gonna agree with what I'm gonna say, right? So you have to go through those 2 videos to know the basis of why I see it the way I do, and then you can begin to understand the discussion we're gonna have today. Okay. Today I'm just here in a very lovely cafe in Istanbul. I really love this cafe for this roof here because it's really beautiful on a rainy autumn day like this. This is a rainy autumn afternoon. Really beautiful. You can see the rain falling on the roof, but now rain stopped quite a bit, so just now you can even hear the sound of the rain. So such peace and serenity, and when it rains nobody comes, so I pretty much have the whole place for myself. Okay, so one of you actually asked if the purpose of life is only because the brain is here to store experience data in the way of experiences. What about all the other things that our brain are actually capable of doing? Our brain is not just storing information, it's creative, it serves a lot of functions, it's analytical, it's creative, it created everything that we see around us, right? And to a much deeper spiritual level, it creates everything you think is reality as well. But okay, let's not get there. Now, to explain this is really easy if you think about a computer. Now, if you know how to build your own computer, I think these days everybody does, okay? But back when I was young, like really not a lot of people know how to make their own computer. They don't even know what are those stuff in there. Now, in a computer, you can take out the graphics card and you still work. You will still do certain things. You can take out the sound card, you still do certain things, right? You can take out the RAM chips and you will still do certain things. But there is only one thing you cannot take out of the computer to make it do something. If you take this out, you will do nothing anymore. You know what? It's the hard disk. You take out the hard disk, the computer, no matter how good the graphics card you have, no matter how good or every other thing you have, is just gonna do nothing. Why? Because all the programs and all the operating systems are contained in the hard disk, okay? Or hard disks. These days you have several hard disks, take them all out, okay? And the primary function of the hard disk is to store information. And on this basis of storing the information of how to do everything, you add the graphics card so that it can produce this kind of graphics to run this kind of game. You put more RAM so that it can run faster, it can produce greater immersions, graphics, 3D, whatever. The more you add on top of that hard disk, the more experiences the computer is producing on the screen. This is exactly how the brain works. It's complex, but it's complexity based upon the foundation that it stores experiences and information. Upon this experience and information, it creates things. It creates poetry. It creates computers. It creates value for the world. So some people would say, oh, my purpose in life should be to create value for the world. is great. It's not wrong, okay? But it is, if you really think about it, creating value for the world is a result of the purpose of wanting to create and store more experiences. In the end, this is the basis. You're creating more value for the world to create the experience of that value for yourself and the world, and the experience of you being in a position, we are creating and experiencing different experience of being different kind of people. Like for me, I created the experience of being a samurai, of being a professional fighter, of being a professional options trader, of being a YouTuber, of being a lot of things. Okay, these are all created experiences so that we can expand the level of experiences in our life. So in doing so, we are actually again and inevitably fulfilling the purpose of life, the one and only indisputable purpose of life, which is the collection of data in the way of experiences. You guys see how this works right now? There's no contradiction between your wanting to create value for the world. There's no contradiction in that the mind actually does a lot more things than just collecting data. But collecting data and in the way experiences is the basis. Why? Okay, take a look at it. If you remove our brain's ability to store data, basically dementia, just look at someone with dementia. Is he capable of creating value for the world? Is he capable of creating valid experiences in the world? Is he capable of experiencing anything in the first, like experiencing the world? If you have deep dementia, you're like, you see? So everything we think that the brain is capable of doing is built upon the foundation of it being a biological machine to store data in the way of experiences. And of course, sometimes this, not sometimes, a lot of the times, like 90% of the time, this accumulation of information and experiences with the capability to create and imagine works against you. And this is exactly how the brain creates this alternate dimension, alternate reality called the story world, which is plain hell and suffering, right? This is actually how this mechanic works to create the story world. If you guys don't know what is the story world, please refer to this video where I explain in the top left or right hand corner. Right, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Let's continue this discussion. The more questions you ask, the deeper I can go into this, because even though this purpose of life statement is extremely simple, but the implications is very deep. I can go very, very, very deep. In fact, if I go into its really deep levels, immediately your mind will blow, and everything you would start to, because you're not there yet, you've not experienced the reality of the levels that I presented so far. If I go beyond, you will everything about what I've said before will just crack in your head, and nothing will start to make, everything will start to make no sense, basically nonsense. That's why I'm very careful with how much of my inner experience I share to the world, because you need to be prepared for that level of realization that I have. Yeah. If it makes sense. Let me know in the comments below. Annyeong.